Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. You guys, this is one of my favorite pieces right here, this part right here, because I get a chance to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things I deem very expensive, their time. 24 hours has been offered as a present to every one of us that are here on this planet. How we utilize time, how we disrespect her, it is going to tell me much about you. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator, man. It has created John. It has carried him. It's wringed him out. It has taught him. It made him cry. It made him laugh. It made him reach deep and pull things. It took him to that spiritual library where he had access to stuff that we want to get to access to. What are those stuff that he got access to? Wisdom, knowledge, insight, foresight. So all these things that this journey dropped into him. And so we want to honor him and thank him for coming and sharing both of these precious commodity with us. John, thank you, man, for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
It's an honor, man. As I mentioned to you, I usually toss this question to people, as I said, toss it, So I'm going to toss it to you, man, because I believe that we are here for a couple of journeys, John. The first journey is, I call it the independent journey, where we get to know about ourselves. And because we really don't know who we are, we have the programmers, as I said, tell us who we are. Mom and dad and everyone tells us, grandma, everybody tells us. And then we have to go through the journey to find out for ourselves who we truly are. And then there's another journey I tell people as we go through our independent journey. We go through this thing and we come out on the other side and we have the second one. It is called the interdependent journey. And that's where we serve mankind. That's where we are serving others to help them to become who they are. My question to you, John, how do you serve mankind?
Great question. I have a few answers to that.
I'll take them all.
Yeah, the few answers. First, I believe I'm serving mankind by my commitment to being the highest and best version of myself, really connecting to the divine gifts that I've been blessed with and embracing them and doing the best I can to improve them every day, because who I believe that I am on this planet and my life's purpose is in fact to serve others, to make this world a better place with this brief time that I have on this earth. That's one way. Secondly, it's just my commitment and my passion to be empathetic to others, be respectful to others' perspectives and insights and their journeys, and be available to those who may need some coaching, who may need some guidance, who may need just an ear, who may need some love, a hug, as they go through and navigate the vicissitudes of their lives, the journey that they're experiencing. So it's really two ways, powerful ways. One is just my commitment to be the highest and best version of myself. And secondly is just to do what I can to make myself available to help others navigate through their lives to love and live their best lives, which ultimately I believe is the purpose of all of our lives, is just simply to love life. I mean, really, in the broadest sense of the word of that I can share, is that's our purpose, is to love life. And it requires that commitment to ourselves to get clear on who we are and what we want to love our lives. And also it's hopeful that others will be available to support us when we need that support to get back on track, to be the highest and best version of ourselves, to love our lives.
I absolutely 100% believe everything you just said, because that is the purpose for us first, because we have to have the baseline. We
Mm-hmm.
have to have that baseline of love. I have to love
Yes.
myself. I have to have that baseline of honor and respect, patient, empathetic, all of those things. The baseline has to come with us first. And once I have that baseline in place, then I am ready to become a servant because I understand the cost of being patient and the need, the necessity to be patient because I had to learn to be patient with myself because most of us were very impatient with ourselves. And so we had to
Yes.
learn that. We learned how to be, we are our most powerful critic. So we had to learn how to be empathetic. We had to learn how to love ourselves because of all our faults and all the different things and beliefs that we had. So we had to go through this class, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the class is the self and that love of on respecting of the self. And as John said, once you've done that, me coming and loving you is easy stuff because
Yeah.
I went
Yeah.
through the hard stuff already. And so I just want
Yeah.
to make myself available for that hug, for that passion, to hold you, to forgive, and all that
Compassion.
different
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Compassion with self and others. And that's been my journey
Yeah.
throughout my entire life has been a one of self-discovery and inward reflection and to self-improve myself. I've always been into self-improvement and done some great things in my life, but then I got blindsided by some very tough challenges
Hmm.
that really forced me to go inside myself and connect with myself. And unfortunately, as humans, it seems like there has to be some kind of catastrophic event or something for some people to call a timeout and be like, wait a minute, let me now get on my knees
Yeah.
and go inward. And I'm hopeful that with my message and my commitment to my, what I believe is my divine mission,
Yeah.
I can help people not just avoid those catastrophic events to go inside, but those who are there already to really help them navigate through that in a powerful way, which is a lot of my story and that I
Yeah.
share with folk.
That is awesome, man. One of our customs here, John, is to go back. I call it the beginnings of the beginnings, if you will. And that location is the first space that we visit shortly. And again, our life here is short. 80 years is not anything. 90 years in
If you're lucky.
the span of the world and time is just a blink. But the first space we reside for a short while, we call this the family unit. There's a couple of people in that unit. There's a mom and dad. They tell us that these individuals are identified as mom and dad. And we have some of us siblings and so forth. But in reality, John, this is just a group of strangers. And you and I are placed in there. We enter into that grouping. But in this space, we're going to learn a couple of things. We're going to learn about relationship. We're going to learn how to talk, how to behave, how to act, all these different things. We're going to get some baselines out of this, good or bad. What was your family unit like?
Interesting question. My family structure, my parents separated and divorced when I was 2 years old. My mom side of the family, she was one of 8 siblings that had a band that used to tour the world for Barry White. It was Barry White's band when I was young. From 2 to like 7, I only saw my mom a couple times a year because she was on tour, touring the world a lot. My dad was kind of removed. So didn't really have that family structure or unit
Mm-hmm.
that some may say that's traditional or normal with mom and dad in the
Yeah.
house. I was pretty much alone a lot as a child. And luckily, in the early age, I fell in love with the game of football and
Mm-hmm.
it really consumed me to the point that I started to receive a lot of my family structure by way of the game and my friends and coaches and
Yeah.
teammates that I accumulated. Naturally I had cousins and all of that. And I had a lot of love in my family. I don't want to say that there wasn't love, but it was love from aunties and
Yeah.
grandparents and, a bunch of folks, not necessarily having that daily influence from my mom and dad kind of deal. It was a village, if you will,
Yeah.
which included a lot of my coaches and stuff. And it was a powerful dynamic in that my father raised in a city. I was from Pacoima, California, which is just north of Los Angeles, a very powerful city that had a lot of great people come out of there, from Grammy Award winners to Heisman Trophy winners. I mean, just this little city of Los Angeles did some great things. My dad was his hero, and I bared his name. And every time when I would go around my neighborhood, I would see older people acknowledge me as his son and how great a man he was. So I had some pressure to live up to my dad, and which in hindsight was a great thing, because it helped me stay out of a lot of trouble. I was always say to myself as a kid, I can't do that. I'm John Diggs' son. What would he say? It really helped me out a lot to
Yeah.
navigate through that. And so much so it kept me focused and out of trouble to get us athletic scholarship to Washington State University to play football. Go Cougs, and that was a big childhood dream that I had, was to play college football. So I was blessed and grateful to actually live that dream as a young man. But I had a lot of people that came in and influenced me, and I was open. That's one thing that I can look back. I was a young man that was very thirsty for knowledge and information and understanding, more so than I think a lot of my friends were and a lot of my relatives were. I mean, I was really seeking information and asking a lot of questions, as far back as I can remember, which, when you have that openness to learn, which I think
Very important.
as adults,
Yeah.
we kind of lose that
Yeah.
that that desire to learn and grow, feel like we know everything, or what we believe is right and everybody else is wrong, which is unfortunate, because one of my mentors told me, we're either growing or dying, and we always have to be open to grow and learn. And that enabled me to do some cool things in my life, with, after football, getting into the mortgage industry in Los Angeles, and eventually owning one of the largest mortgage brokerages in all of Southern California, and living this millionaire like lifestyle. I made more money as a businessman than I ever did playing professional football for 5 years. And
Yeah.
life was great, and until that recession we talked about,
Yeah.
when
Let me
I
ask you a
literally,
question, John.
yeah.
Because I love one of the hallmarks of a deep individual, if you will, is one that is in love with learning, because
Mhm.
he pursues data. Where, besides your mentors that were around, where else were you getting your data from? A young man, where were you getting it from outside of your coaches and stuff?
Books, but anyone that I felt that had knowledge worth learning, I befriended and asked questions of. From my father, there's a true story. My father was a top insurance salesman when I was a kid, and he was always a salesman, all in a positive thinking himself. And I remember he was taking me home one day, and he was getting gas, I believe, and there was a book that he had in his briefcase that was sitting in right next to me on the passenger seat. And I remember grabbing that book, and I thumbed through it, and I looked at it, and it was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I
Napoleon
had to
Hill.
be maybe in the 8th or ninth grade, I'm thinking.
Wow.
And I took that book. I took it, and I'm sorry for the emotion, but my father, he asked me if I took it. But I remember throughout my life, he always asked me questions about it. And I didn't even know he was asking me questions about it. But it was just like, when I would see him the time, because I never lived with my dad, but the times I would see him, he would always ask me questions about it, as
Yeah.
if he knew I
Yeah.
took it, but was
hmm
hoping I was going to read it, right?
Yeah.
So I started back then. Then I can think of my girlfriend's dad, who was a very successful businessman. I used to always want to sit down and ask him questions. And I used to always ask a lot of questions of those who seemed to have that which I wanted, whether it was a personality trait, whether it was a certain skill set, whether it was a lifestyle. That has always been a pattern in my life since a kid. Of, like the most popular guy in the school, I would try to go to ask him questions about how he was doing it, kind of deal, in school. And it's always been my mentality for all of my life is just
That's
to
a
really try
powerful
to
book.
model
It's a
questions.
powerful book, John, to have access to. Think and Grow Rich is a
Yes.
powerful book for a kid
Yes.
to be open to at such a young age, because that book freed millions of people when it came out. It revolutionized lives that to
Yeah.
this day, that book in the self-help arena is
Mhm.
a must read for anyone that is on the journey of self-development. And
I
here's
agree.
this little kid picked
And it
that
was
thing
written
up.
in the 30s. That
Yes,
yeah, it
written
took
in the 30s.
25 years.
Here is this kid with this treasure trove of wisdom collected by this man about
Hmm.
all these different millionaires and stuff like that. And you begin to put that inside of you. And you are tapping into the live libraries that you're coming in contact with, your girlfriend's father, and all the others, your coaches, and anyone that you sense had something and you wanted that knowledge. As you began to deposit the information and remaining and continue to remain an open book, what did it do to you, John? How did it begin to affect you? Because you cannot be open and putting all of that data and planting seeds, if you will, and it not coming up once in a while. We have glimpse, it'll come up. Our our subconscious man is gonna do things sometimes, and a situation comes, he's in charge, and we're in and out of that quickly, and it goes by, and we don't even realize what we just did. Not until years later, then you go, whoa. Talk to me about this young man as he's moving through, John. He's collecting data. How did he manage the data with his everyday life, and how did he allow it to impact him, if you will?
Yeah, again, I was always open to growth and learning by way of divine guidance is all I can say. And it seems like always at the right time, there was someone that presented themselves in my life to give me a certain nugget or certain wisdom that I needed to continue. I mean, that's really honest, honest to you right there. And I think of a time in college, after we won the Aloha Bowl in 1988, our coach Dennis Erickson brought a sports psychologist to our team to speak to our team. And she gave her a little spiel and said that, she, where her office is, if anybody wanted to come talk to her. And I believe I'm the only one that ever went to go talk to her.
Hmm.
And I remember sitting there talking to her, and she asked me the most profound question that I ever been asked at that point in my life. She said, John, what is the most amazing single play you can make playing a game of football? And I've never thought about that, and I started
Hmm.
playing at 7. I didn't play it in tons of games, but I never really thought about that. And she said, well, think about it, and I want you to write it down. Write it down exactly what that play is. So I spent a couple weeks, I wrote it down and brought it back to her. And she said, it's good, but it needs to be more descriptive. Use
Hmm.
more adjectives, use more adverbs, make it real. So I spent another few weeks or whatever and brought it back to her. And she said, all right, this is good. Now she told me to lay down on her little council couch that she had in her room. And she said, take a few deep breaths, and I'm actually going to read and record what you wrote.
Hmm.
Fine. And after she did that, she gave it to me back on a cassette tape. Again, this is 88, 89,
Hmm.
cassette tape. I had the Walkman. And she said, just listen to it and let's just see what happens. Man, and as God is my witness, that play happened my senior year at Washington State. And it blew me away just because I knew that that was my first introduction to the power of imagination,
Yeah.
the power of visualization, the power of the law of attraction, the power it gave me the insight on my true ability to manifest and create whatever I want to experience in my life. And that was a huge distinction for me on that. If I really get clear on what it is I truly want, then I can clearly, consistently, vividly visualize me already in possession of that and
Hmm.
experiencing that what I want, it will happen at the perfect and right time. I mean, that was just, and ever since then, that's what I've been using to manifest and create the life that I want.
Yeah, it
And
is
that's just
exactly
one
how,
example.
yeah, exactly how John laid it out. Because as I said on the onset, there's a library that we have access to that none of us, we're not aware of it, but that psychologist was aware of it. And she caused you to tap into that. You must be clear when you are going to create something. You've got to be clear. And I use this analogy because I grew up in the church, John. I grew up in the church, and I was reading that Bible, and they said, and God said, "Let us make man in our image." And I remember I was one of those guys that were always asking questions, and I was like, well, that had to come from somewhere. He thought about it first. It came out of his imagination first. He had to imagine that, in fact, and then he had to put it together. And then he spoke what he imagined. Hey, let's make man in our image. And we got to put a place for him. I want to call it, and he began to create this place. But the purpose of him making all this was because he wanted to do this. And it came
Yeah.
from here. But he was very specific in his enunciation of what he wanted. I want this. I need light. Let there be light. I need this. And so you and I, that psychologist, made you enunciate exactly what that play
Yeah.
was and
Mm-hmm.
wrote it down
Mm-hmm.
and had you imagine it, have you put it and dance with it in the imagination. And what
Mm-hmm.
you were doing, what were you doing? You were taking that thing that was out there and bring it into the realm that you and I will see. And when
Mm-hmm.
that play arrives, why did it show up? Because you had already called it way back. And
Yeah.
I remember when I lost my job one day, this company had shut down, John. And I remember, as I said before, our identities caught up in our jobs. And I going through a divorce in the midst of all of that and my kids, and what a mess that was, man. I lost my job in the midst of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was working for minimum wage. I was making a couple hundred, 100,000 and change as this young kid, with his family and whatever, who
Mm-hmm.
had my own office and big time boy, director, statewide director of marketing and development and all this kind of title things. You know how the ego goes. Next thing I
Mm-hmm.
know, one day I'm working in a factory making minimum wage, man, lost everything. And I remember saying to myself, because I knew I was a collector like you, and I said, I've got to call this in. And I would get up every morning and meditate, and I would call in exactly what I want. And I would, because I knew it in here, and I called it in, I wrote it down, and called it in every morning in meditation. And back then, the job was in the newspaper, man. So I would look in the newspaper, the Sunday newspaper, for the job because I'm calling it in.
Right.
And I saw it, and I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, I was living with her and her mother. I lost everything. She was picking me up in her car. I was stripped naked,
Yeah.
bare with all my stuff. And I remember calling that job. And when I saw it, John, on a piece of paper, they're asking for the position. And I looked at it, I said, this is my job because I called it in. I cut it out and I carried it with me every day at that 325 an hour job. And every time you're a failure, you're this, you're that. Nope, this is my job. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care this is mine. They called me. I sent my resume. They called me, of course. I went in there, and my mindset was I'm going in there to find out the day that I start and how much money I made. So when I got in there, I was like greeting everyone like I worked there
Mm-hmm.
because I knew I
Yeah.
called this in. It wasn't anything. I did this. And that's how I approach it, just like you, John. And that's how we have to let people know that's how we create and we change the world. I got that job. I called in the day that I start, how much money, all of it I knew way
And
before.
that's exactly what I'm working a lot with student athletes now. I wrote a book and got courses called Big Play Power, where a part of my presentation is that story that I shared with them, and I heighten their awareness around the fact that everything you see, wherever you're at, whatever you look at, from the lights to cheers, clothes you have on, the teleprompter, whatever it is, that was first created in somebody's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
First created here
Yep.
before you see anything, before
Anything.
all of the stuff you see. Somebody visualized that first. That is the secret, is to not just get clear there. And what I've been really learning and stressing to my students and clients lately is that not just to visualize it, but you 10x it when you add the emotional components to it.
Must. You
How are you
must.
going to
Yes.
feel
Yes.
when you are experience that visualization? And
Yes.
really, and I tell the story of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has been reported to have said that every night before a basketball game, he would be playing the full game in his hotel room in his imagination,
Mm-hmm.
so vividly that he would hear the squeaks of the shoes. He would feel the ball bouncing. He felt the coolness of the arena, sweat dripping off his face. I mean, he was literally playing the full game in his mind. Very real, like those dreams we have when we're like falling and we wake up. I mean, it was really there for him. So when he would hit the game winning shot, there was a reporter that asked him, I think it was after the Cleveland game or something, and when he won, put them out the playoffs or something, they asked him, what is it like making that game winning shot? And he calmly looked at the reporter and said, I've made that shot 1,000
Mm-hmm.
times in my imagination. I knew it was going in. I knew what was going to happen because it happened so much here. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I really try to stress to people, especially are going through challenges right now. Start focusing on that which you want and start spending more time in what your desired result is or may be, not your current circumstances.
Exactly.
That is the true power that we have as humans, that I think a lot of us fail to embrace and master, is the power of creating that which we want and living it here first, to actually live it out here secondly, if you
Yeah.
will.
The emotions and all those things has to be a part of it. As you said, 10x, it has to be a part of it in order for it to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Because once the emotion is tied into it, it becomes tangible. If the emotions are not there, it's not tangible yet. It hasn't sit. But once the emotion has grabbed it and you attach your emotion to it, it is tangible to your being and it's a reality at that point, and it's just a matter of time.
Well, I even go as far as to say that God Almighty Universe, however you label God,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's his language
Yeah.
that he communicates with.
Yeah.
So in prayer, when you have emotions tied to your prayer, that I believe 10x's your communication to your higher power, not just words and
Mm-hmm.
visions, but that emotional component that we feel, I believe, is the communication to the universe, to
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I believe so too. And he talks about that in the scriptures. And I actually did a series a while back on that process of what we're talking about. And the emotion is a great part of it. And without it, and how it lands from the thought and to the where it goes from there and all that stuff, and how it lands in the heart and what is the heart and all those different things I went into on a deeper time and
Nice.
talking about. I want to go back to you, John, because you alluded to the 2008, and I know what happened in the 2008. You listen to all these men, all these women that are pouring, your aunts and everyone pouring all the wisdom in you, and your track in life was the college you went to, professional ball, football. You came out, you started one of the largest mortgage brokerage company in Cali, and you're making money. You're big balling, as they say, and then all of a sudden the crash came in 2000. And I remember when that happened because I was also and I was a project manager for Pulte Homes. And we thought it was going to be a temporary thing. And then as we started looking deeper into it, we realized, no, this is not a temporary thing. And I saw some madness when it began to happen as some of the stuff. Talk to us as to what began to happen to you, John, because that's where out of this is where you began to get your vision on and your assignment about the mind mapping approach. And I want you
Yeah,
to go into that because the mind mapping is going to circle back to what we were just talking about
yeah,
a few minutes
absolutely.
ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I mean, I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes a month, living a crazy great life as a young 30 something year old African American man, living life O'Reilly, if you will. And within 8 months or so, I went from a nice six-figure savings to deep, dark red six-figure debt. Because again, we held on to a lot of things thinking that it wasn't going to last forever. And, next thing you know, it was lasting forever and I lost everything. Forced me
Yeah.
to, I mean, houses were gone, cars were gone, my wife and kids left. I was forced to move back to my mother's house to seek some kind of place to reset myself. And going back to my mom's house, sleeping on the couch that I actually bought her was kind of humbling in and of itself.
Yeah.
But I went to my mom's house with just a gym bag, my bicycle, and this big box that I had that was full of motivational books, self-help books, CDs and DVDs, cassette tapes that I've accumulated over the years. I mean, it was everything from Think and Grow Rich to all the Tony Robbins stuff, Brian
Yep.
Tracy, Wayne Dyer,
Same stuff I have.
Eckhart Tolle, all of the top books that you can think of were in that box. And I knew I had to revisit the contents of
Yeah.
that box because I had to rebuild my life. So as I started going through that box, there was this one book that really resonated with me, and it was called The Mind Map Book by Tony Buzan. I don't remember ever buying it myself. I think somebody may have given it to me. I didn't read it, but for whatever reason, it really resonated with me at this time. So that was like the first book that I started reading in this box. And from there, I made one of the most powerful decisions I ever made. And that was to mind map all of the contents that was in that box.
Yeah.
So for 3 or 4 months, I just every day, all day, I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
Every day, all day, I just was mind mapping these books. And that really transformed my life because it was my first introduction to the power of mind mapping. And for those who aren't familiar with mind mapping, it's basically just a visual information management tool, meaning it allows you to visually structure and organize information in a way for you to see connections, in a way for you to gain greater perspective of whatever you're thinking about. And as I was going through these books, I was putting all these mind maps on these big poster boards, and it started stimulating what I now know to be active learning. So
Yeah.
instead of like with most people when they're reading books, they're just maybe underlining or highlighting or writing the margins or something. When you mind map books, you're actively learning in that you're trying to find keywords or short phrases of
Mm-hmm.
each paragraph or chapter that you can take to put on that mind map,
Mm-hmm.
which causes a greater engagement with the material. So as I started doing all of that, I started really starting to understand things in ways that I didn't understand before. Then mind mapping caused me to do what is called meaningful learning.
Mm-hmm.
Meaningful learning, meaning that I started to connect the new information that I was getting with from these books to the previous information that I had. So I wasn't just trying to remember information. I was actually connecting this new information to some of the previous knowledge that I had. Tony Robbins, or like for instance, in Think and Grow Rich, there's a chapter called Specialized Knowledge and the importance of having specialized knowledge. So it really resonated with me because I was able to look back in my past and see the specialized knowledge that I had in football that gave me some success, the specialized knowledge that I accumulated in the mortgage industry
Yep.
that created some success. So I was able to really understand what specialized knowledge meant more than anything else or any other time in my life, because mind mapping was allowing me to connect dots for
Yeah.
that deeper, meaningful learning. And I did that for 3 or 4 months of just, it had to be a good 50 something power books, best selling
Wow.
books and CDs and stuff in there. And I walked away with two really key distinctions after that process. Was the big one was all of the thought leaders that were in there. Again, there was all of the greatest books ever written. All of them were ultimately trying to do one thing, and that was just to help us love life.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had their own philosophy, systems of thought, and perspectives and things on how to do it. But that was the ultimate goal. They was just saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, live your life and you got to love your life. And here's some strategies on how to achieve that. So I realized that I was very, very clear that my life was meant to be loved. Then the second thing I took out of that, which is again very powerful, is that I am the one that must make that decision on what needs to take place for me to love life. Who do I need to be? What do I need to do? What I need to have to love this experience of life? So I walked away with those two huge life changing aha moments, if you will,
Yeah.
that really transformed me on a deep level, which caused me, just to complete that, button up that story real fast, is after that first 3 or 4 months of mind mapping all of those books, I spent the next 3 or 4 months developing a mind map to get clear on who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? Which today is known as my I am mind map, which I
Yeah.
wrote books and got courses and things of that nature. But that was very powerful because what I found is that, like we had mentioned before, when we're young, there's a lot of people trying to tell us who we should be in this
Yeah.
world or
Yep.
how to behave in this world. So a lot of people are becoming who they are, not by conscious choice, but either
Mm-hmm.
social conditioning or,
Mm-hmm.
forced behavior kind of deal. And that's why I think leads to a lot of upset, dis-ease, discomfort, drama, stress, tension that people experience in life because they really have not consciously themselves made the choice on who they are and what they want their life to be about, which has been my passion ever since COVID, let's say pandemic, is just really trying to share people this tool to help them get clear on what's most important to them in their life as it relates to health, wealth, success, and happiness,
Yeah. It
which is the
is.
I am mind map.
Yeah. It is. Everyone is waiting for someone to do it for them. A lot of people are, and don't realize that it's you. You were born with everything that you need to become a success. I understand about conditions as far as your neighborhood and stuff like that, but wherever you're born and what neighborhood, we know you were going to be born there, but that
Mhm.
doesn't stop you from what's inside of you to get you out of the neighborhood. Some people come out of there, John, through music. Some people come out of there through being an athlete. Some people come out of there writers. But there is a way out. But most people just sit and complain and don't pay the price that it requires to do that. As you said, you have to go in, you have to go get the stuff and stay open, as John said. That is the thread that has been in his life from the minute he said, Ken, thank you for inviting me to your show. That piece right there. And so I want to invite all you guys there that are closed up. Open up, guys. Open up. Open yourself. Stretch yourself a little. Start gathering a little data. Take your time. If a book takes you a month to read it, read it. Take your month. And then go back and spend another month. And then you'll figure out you'll read it in 3 weeks instead of a month. And then you'll read it, and then you'll start getting all this stuff. And like what John is talking about, especially when you start mind mapping, man, all those things will start, all those little things will start making sense. Let me put it
That
that
is
way.
this that is the secret. Out of all of my self-development work that I've done, from seminars to coaching to weekend retreats, all of the stuff I've done in my life, I have yet to find a better tool than mind mapping, because it really, I think a lot of people have stress, drama, and unfulfillment, and even some mental challenges, mental health issues, primarily because they have so much stuff swirling in their mind,
Mm-hmm.
that they can't seem to sort out or organize or structure.
Mm-hmm.
People that are going through
Yes.
challenges, loss of job, loss of life, loss of relationship, whatever that may be. And they're now, going through all of this wild thoughts that are just crisscrossing in their mind, creating a lot of physical and mental negative issues. I find that mind mapping has been the most powerful tool I've ever come across to help people sort all of that out. If you just sit there and just to give a quick little exercise for folks, for instance, like if you have a problem that you're dealing with, this is what I teach, my students call it the 5 W's and H mind map. If you have a problem, for instance, you can take a piece of paper, kind of like this, put it portrait side, and you just put right in the middle whatever you want to just name the problem: divorce, job loss, whatever you want to name the problem. Then from there, put who, what, when, where, why, and how around the central problem. Now let's go to who and just start really thinking about, who's involved with this problem. Who shouldn't be involved with this problem? Who should be involved with this problem? Just ask you a bunch of who questions related to that problem. Do the same thing with when. When is this problem happening? When should it happen? Should it stop? Then go to where. Ask a bunch of where questions around that problem. Then go to why. Then go to how. Then go to, once you
Mm-hmm.
actually brainstorm all of that, and now you take that mind map and kind of push it away and look at it from a 10,000-foot perspective. Always, yes, always, trust me, the solution to the problem illuminates itself. It
Mm-hmm.
really becomes clear on what your next best step is to address that problem. Again, it's just such a way. And the big point that I've been working with clients, and I just worked with a student yesterday on this that was very intense about some issues he got going on with his dad. But we walked it through this UNH mind map, and it's amazing the energy, emotional release that happens when
Yeah.
people get it out of here
Yeah.
and put it out there.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer in here confused and disorganized. Now you actually took it out of yourself and put it here.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're actually seeing it, which again reduces the emotional negativity, which puts you in a better position to be positive and open to possible solutions. So that's just one exercise that I encourage anybody who's going through a problem. Please try that. And I guarantee you'll find some relief, some kind of benefit at just going through that one simple mind map exercise called the 5 W's and H. You can do the same thing with decisions you need to make. Put the decision in the middle: who, what, where, when, why, how. It'll help you make better informed decisions. That's just a great tool that I think has been adding value to my life for so long. And I'm just very passionate about helping other people with a tool, a tangible tool that they
Yeah.
can just use with a napkin that can really bring more peace into
Yeah.
their life quicker to help them love life.
Because the human spirit, the human being, the human makeup, this being, when he has the opportunity to focus, he becomes powerful.
Yes.
He becomes singular. When he becomes singular, I tell people that we are spirit, soul, and body, that the Bible teaches this triune piece. When
Mm-hmm.
he comes singular, the Bible says that he is in faith. If he is not in faith, meaning that if he's not singular, if his mind is all over here and he's all over, he is not in power. He can't
Right.
get anything done because it
Mm-mm.
calls him a double minded man, meaning that He's
Mm-hmm.
unstable, it says. But when
Mm-hmm.
he connects, when he allows, he's rested, his mind begins. And what that tool does, John is talking about, is get you from a space of double mindedness and bring you in a space of single mindedness. And when you are there, you are actually, it tells us that you're in a state of pure belief. You are in faith, and what you say at that moment will become a reality. That's what the Bible calls faith. Because it
Yeah.
says, when you believe, you shall have what you say. But you can't be in derision with all the different thoughts coming. You
Yeah.
have to put all the other things. And John gave you tools that is designed to make you singular. And when you get to that mind, the singular mind, there is nothing that you can't do.
Nothing at all. And that's very well said. Very, very well said. And I totally agree with that. And that's why I believe out of the thousands and thousands possible mind maps people can create, literally you can create a mind map for anything you got to think about. Goal set, problem solve, decision, deal with stuff in your past. Anything that's going on in your mind, you can build a mind map for. Out of all of those options, there's none more important than an I am mind map. You gotta start with an I am mind map because that will help you get that singular focus on who you are. And that's what I developed, back in those days to really empower me to go from broken homeless at my mom's house to making a solid 6-figure income in 8 months is because of that process I went through, that mind mapping, the first 3 months of those contents of that book. Then the next 3 months of really clarifying who I am in the form of an I am mind map. I had so much congruity. I had so much positivity. I had so much source energy rolling through me that when I went on that job interview, like you, I was
Mm-hmm.
walking in there knowing that this is my job. This is my job and you're going to pay me,
Mm-hmm.
what I need to be paid. And
Yeah.
just briefly for those who I am mind map is essentially you just start with the middle of I am health, wealth, success, and happiness are the subtopics around I am. Again, it's health, wealth, success, and happiness. In my books, in my courses, I really lead people through the subtopics of those subtopics, meaning like for health, we ask very thought-provoking questions about spiritual health, mental health, physical health. When it comes to wealth, having an abundance of stuff, we really get clear on abundance of positive emotions that you want to experience in your life, the abundance of specialized knowledge, the
Mm-hmm.
skills you need to have, and the abundance of freedom. Then in success, dive deep into questions about having successful relationships, results, and rewards. And the happiness section of your I am mind map, you really dig into being blessed for your past, feeling grateful for your future, and being fulfilled in the present to really be happy. And I found that when people really go through this I am process, and again, once they have it as a tangible tool that they can visualize and
Yes.
actually see all the key components of their life like never before, it empowers them in such a way that it helps them navigate through whatever challenges they may be going through, and it empowers them and inspire them to achieve any goal that they want to set because they are very clear now that this is who I am. It's not who my dad said I was.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who that event said in my past. No, I've consciously decided that these are the key components of my life. These are my commandments, my constitution. It's like my GPS for where
Yeah.
my life is. Again, to you and your listeners, I just strongly recommend that you want to start there to really get clear about who you are because it will help you deal with current issues, but it'll also put you in the right direction of knowing what you want to achieve in your life to love your life. Ultimately, it's the I am mind map. It's truly powerful.
And guys, we're going to give you guys the link to get John's book and get the I am map and so forth. It is the beginning. You can't get the other stuff without first dealing with who you are. There's no way. I don't know what to say. That's the truth, and
That's
the
the
truth
truth.
is the truth. There's no easy way out. You got to know who you are your dad and your mom been telling you what you think you should be, and your grandma and your girlfriend and everybody, you also, because you believe some of the lie. And I tell people, you gotta, when you start in this journey, you have to learn to be very careful about what you say, because I always tell them, the most important person is listening, yourself. Be very careful what you say to yourself, because you're listening. And you heard me talk about the Bible I wrote. God had his I am mind map, because he was very clear, because he knew who he was. And if you read Genesis, a couple of verses, you'll see he was very clear as he began to tell
Mm-hmm.
what he wanted to create his world. He had to make a couple of things before
Mm-hmm.
he put his man that he wanted to put in charge of this place. And so he was very specific. He had to know who he was and
Mm-hmm.
is, in order to begin to do what he had to do. And then he put this man together, and then he was teaching this man who he was. And you and I are creators just like him,
Yeah.
because he laid out the plan, the blueprint for us to look at, see in that first couple of chapters how to do it. And he has John put it into a format where you guys can see it and bring it in front of your table and get it done, so that you can understand exactly what he was talking about in Genesis. So there is no
Yeah.
excuse. You got no excuse, guys. That's what I'm telling you. When John showed up, all the excuse, just your expiration date just happened. And so
Yeah. And when you think about it, all of the people that we admire or all of the people that we hold in high regard, either currently alive or those who have passed on, I'm thinking of the Dr. Kings, the Gandhis,
mhm.
and all of the people that stand out in history. One thing is true with them all. They were very clear on who they were.
Yes,
They knew who they are. They knew their purpose in their lives, and they was willing to die for it. In
yes.
many cases, knowing that this is who I am, this is what my life is about. So I challenge people to live a great life and to live your best life. Get clear on who you are and what you want to experience in your life will be the first step to living and loving your best life.
If you don't know what you want, John, how are you going to get it?
Makes all the sense in the world, right?
Yeah.
But
How
so
do you
many
know?
people.
How are you going to know how to get it? You're going to know what it is to get, because you have no idea what it is to get. And so I tell people, the reason why you are in the place that you are is because you are double minded. You're not single minded. The human being is designed to be single minded. We gave it a word: focus.
Focus.
And when you watch an athlete, you watch him, John was an athlete. You got to be focused, especially when that ball is coming and
Mm-hmm.
you are tackling. Whatever you're doing on that field,
Mm-hmm.
you are not looking at anyone. You are focused. And when you're focused, you get things done. If you're not focused, you can get hurt pretty bad,
Right.
you know?
Live an unfilled life. So
Yeah.
many people are setting goals, to only achieve the goal and realize that it didn't provide the fulfillment they thought because it wasn't really the goal that was in alignment with their core of who they
Mm-hmm.
are.
Yeah.
Which is why I always tell my young students, look, let's get clear on who you are and what you want in your life before you start setting all these goals. So at least you're knowing that you're working towards something that's going to truly give you that fulfillment based on your definition of it, not your dad's, not mine, not somebody else. You've already said that this is what resonates with me. So this is why I'm working towards this versus so many people working towards this and haven't really defined if that was really what truly was going to be fulfilling and satisfying. So yeah, I hope that helps.
It helped. It's there. And John, I told you, you came here for your assignment. I tell people that each and every one of us has an assignment on this planet to do, and the job is there. But there's an assignment, and I tell people there's an assignment in some cases within the job. But you have to be in the know of with you. You have to know you to know where and what it is. Is this a job or an assignment? When you hear John talk, you know it's not a job. You know it's an assignment. He declared it when he started. I feel back. It's an assignment. And I use this analogy John, because to me, it impacted me as a young man, because I remember when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, I need to learn how to locate my assignment and not just hunt for a job,
Hmm.
because I was
Hmm.
trained to hunt for jobs.
Right.
I was reading the story in the Bible, and Jesus was walking on the shore, and he sees this bunch of guys doing their job, fishermen. These guys are doing their job, fishing, and Peter, and he looks at them and he says, "Hey guys, come follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And I'm thinking, what do they know what that means? I don't have a clue what he just said. But
Hmm.
what I do know, it says they immediately jumped off and left. There must have been something that resonated in them, in those words, that was leveled at them.
Hmm.
Something
To
within
take
those
action.
words that they said, yeah, I think so, because they were in a dead end job, if you will. They couldn't go any further because, you can't climb the ladder wherever. But they jumped. A couple of years later, as you said, Gandhi and all these guys, Martin Luther, you got to find something to die for. We see those same guys.
Hmm.
See that same boy that told him, says, I was a fisherman, says, no, don't crucify me straight up. Turn me upside down, because I'm not worthy to die like how he died.
Yeah.
The same guy.
Right.
Because when you find your assignment, it don't matter what people, it doesn't matter what they say, what they do, because
Yeah.
this
It's my mission.
resonates in your being. That's why you are here, and this is what you're supposed to do, because your assignment, John, is to show folks what God was doing in Genesis on a more understandable level, that
Hmm.
they can now take the same process
Hmm.
and become focused, because he said he was focused. I need light, I need this, I need that. That was focus. And so he wasn't confused. And so your tool with the mind mapping helps them to become focused, help
Yeah.
them to create their world, to become and live that life, and to love life. Because at the end of the
Exactly.
7 days, he looked at it, he says, man, this is good stuff. you
Right.
know? And so you have to look at your life and love it and says, yeah, this is
Yeah.
some good stuff I created. And you have the ability. And John came here, he offered us his time, his knowledge, his wisdom, and all that he is. He has offered to us. And I want to thank him for coming, and I'm going to bring him back, because we haven't even delved into a lot of other things that I wanted to talk about. But for some reason, we were lingered at this place that we were talking about. And I know it's for someone, and maybe it's for several people, but we lingered here. But I want to bring him back later so we
Please.
can go deeper than where we're at. John, thank you, man, so much for coming and open up yourself to us and giving us the opportunity to dive in and extract such powerful stuff from you, so that we can become better human spirit, so that we can
Thank you.
learn to love life, man.
Thank you for having me. And I'm here for you. I'm here for all of your listeners. You guys can, I'm at johndiggs.com, or I'm on all social medias. Anybody have any questions, or I can support anyone in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out, to me, because this is my passion. This is my divine mission. This is my purpose in my life. And I believe that's going to be one of the questions that's going to be asked on the day of judgment is, what did you do with your gifts and your blessings to help people love their lives more? And I'm staunchly committed to doing everything I can to help others. So please feel free to reach out to me if you're hearing this right now and need some clarity on something or need some help or in any way. I'm here to help you. I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for having me here, Ken. This was awesome.
Thanks, man. I thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you have cooked, the meal that you have cooked for us. It was a good dish, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Take care.
Oh, man.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully, you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.